There is a kind of plant that does not just grow in soil, it rebuilds the earth, feeding depleted fields with minerals drawn from deep underground, year after year, without ever needing to be replanted or replaced. For centuries, farmers relied on these living nutrient pumps to regenerate their harvests for free. But then, quietly, these plants vanished from view, not because they failed, but because they threatened an entire industry built on making people buy fertility. Why would a world that claims to need more abundance hide a plant that feeds the earth forever? The answer starts beneath your feet. A single plant can reach farther underground than most trees. Comfrey, for example, sends taproots more than 2 meters deep, breaking through dense soil layers untouched by most crops. Down in the dark, these roots draw up calcium, potassium, phosphorus, and trace minerals that rain and shallow roots never touch. Leaf tissue tests confirm it. Comfrey's foliage contains higher potassium than most commercial fertilizers, and phosphorus levels that rival mined rock. When the plant is cut, those nutrients move from the root, through the stem, and into the leaves, ready to be returned to the surface. Left to break down, a single comfrey patch can add up to 5 kilograms of potassium per 100 square meters each season, feeding everything in its reach. The process isn't limited to comfrey. Deep-rooted legumes like alfalfa and clover fix atmospheric nitrogen, up to 200 kilograms per hectare per year, directly into the soil with no synthetic input needed. Their roots reach a meter or more, creating channels for water and air, and leaving behind organic matter as they grow and die. Soil scientists describe these plants as living infrastructure, cycling nutrients in a closed loop. Think of these roots as elevators, one agronomist explains. They move minerals up from the basement of the earth, then deposit them on the ground floor for the next generation of plants. This underground machinery works year after year without replanting or fertilizer. When cut, the plants regrow, stronger, deeper, and with more nutrients stored in every leaf. Over time, the soil darkens, structure improves, and surrounding crops thrive. The mechanism is simple but powerful. Roots mine, leaves deliver, and the cycle continues, feeding the soil from within. In the 18th century, in Norfolk, England, a quiet revolution unfolded on fields once considered hopeless. Farmers there adopted a 4-course rotation: wheat, turnips, barley, and a clover lay, an unassuming pasture of red clover or mixed grasses. The LAI was more than a rest period for the land. Each year, it fixed as much as 200 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare, pulled up minerals from deep below, and left behind a thick mat of roots and leaves. As the lay was plowed under, the soil changed. Pale, sandy ground darkened to rich, friable earth, what estate records called black mold. Yield ledgers from Holcomb Hall, managed by Thomas Koch, recorded wheat harvests climbing from 12 to 25 bushels per acre within a generation. Barley and turnips followed suit. Livestock grazed the lay, cycling nutrients back into the ground. After a decade, these farms no longer needed to buy manure or imported guano. Fertility came from within the rotation itself, year after year. Observers like Arthur Young described the transformation in plain terms. Fields once white as sand now supported crops double or triple the old yields. The lay system did not rely on outside inputs or chemical amendments. Instead, it built fertility that lasted. The evidence lay in the ledgers. No fertilizer bills, no declining yields, only darker soil and heavier harvests. This was living infrastructure in practice, proven not by theory, but by the numbers written in the farm books of Norfolk. A $200 billion industry stands where living fertility once ruled. The business of synthetic fertilizer now stretches from the Gulf Coast to the Black Sea, with global shipments measured in megatons and profits tied to every acre that needs refueling. For companies, the logic is simple. Sell the promise of growth year after year and make the land dependent on their product. The old system, roots mining minerals and leaves feeding soil, never fit that model. It could not be packaged, patented, or scaled across continents with the turn of a valve. An agricultural historian puts it plainly: markets reward what can be bought and sold, not what renews itself. The motto for the chemical era was clear: feed the crops, not the soil. Every season brought new blends, new formulations, new reasons to buy. Fertility became a commodity, measured in bags per hectare and dollars per bushel, not in the slow, steady wealth of darkening earth. This shift was not driven by a failure of biology, but by the demands of commerce. Closed-loop systems where plants rebuilt fertility for free did not generate repeat business. The more soil could feed itself, the less market there was for inputs. In boardrooms and trade journals, the future belonged to what could be sold, not what could endure. Living infrastructure was out. Manufactured fertility was in. In 1913, a new kind of factory came online outside Ludwigshafen, Germany. Inside, engineers forced hydrogen and nitrogen together under extreme pressure, creating ammonia from thin air. This was the first full-scale Haber-Bosch plant, and its product would change agriculture forever. Ammonia meant nitrogen in a bag. No more waiting for clover or alfalfa to fix it over seasons. No more relying on the slow work of roots and microbes. Now, fertility could be manufactured, measured, and shipped by the ton. At first, the ammonia fed explosives. After 2 world wars, the same technology pivoted to feed crops. By 1945, idled munitions plants across the US, Britain, and the Soviet Union were retooled to churn out fertilizer. Within a decade, synthetic nitrogen production soared. Ammonium nitrate and urea poured into fields across continents, promising instant green-up and record yields. For farmers, the draw was obvious. Bags of fertilizer replaced years of cover cropping. Yields could be pushed higher, faster, with less labor. The land no longer set the pace. Factories did. By the 1960s, more than half the world's bread was grown with synthetic nitrogen, and the market for living soil systems shrank to the margins. The promise was seductive, predictable, scalable, profitable. But the logic was simple. Fertility was now something to buy, not something to build. The closed loop of roots and residue gave way to a supply chain of contracts and invoices. The soil's ancient partnership with plants was interrupted by a process that made growth itself a commodity. By 2022, the promise of convenience came with a hidden price tag. As global fertilizer costs tripled in just 1 year, farmers faced bills that shattered budgets and forced tough choices. Some watched input costs rise from $300 to over $900 per ton almost overnight. Beneath those numbers, the land itself was changing. Across the Midwest, soil organic matter fell by half over the last century, leaving fields more fragile with every passing season. Crops demanded more fertilizer each year just to hold steady, while profits thinned and risks multiplied. When prices spiked, entire harvests hung on whether a shipment would arrive or if credit would stretch far enough. The quick fix had become a trap. The deeper the dependency, the more exposed each farm became to every shock in the system. Across the Sahel, Phytherba albida trees stand as living proof that perennial systems endure where others fail. In fields scattered with these nitrogen-fixing giants, millet yields can double, sometimes rising by 50 to 100% compared to open ground. Even through drought, the soil beneath their canopies stays moist and rich, fed by falling leaves and deep roots mining nutrients year after year. In the United States, over 20 million acres now grow cover crops, plants chosen not just for harvest, but for the way they build soil from below. Regenerative farmers keep careful ledgers. Some report cutting purchased nitrogen by 60% while maintaining yields. Inputs drop, resilience grows, and the ledger turns from red to black. This is not a return to the past. It is a blueprint for the future, rooted in systems that never stopped working, even when we stopped noticing. Right now, over half the world's soils are degraded, even as plants proven to restore them grow wild, unnoticed. The real barrier isn't scarcity, it's the systems we choose to uphold. Regeneration is waiting in the roots beneath our feet. The question is, will we let it rise?